Okay, sit yourself on your left and then bring yourself into a good, comfortable cross leg position. So just have a little wriggle about until you feel evenly placed, evenly seated. And then hold onto your knees. Lift your chest upwards, drive your chest up. So just as we were doing yesterday, breathe evenly into both lungs. Breathing from the bottom of the lungs to the top of the lungs. And just draw your ears into the breath. Listen to the breath with the inner ear. So just normal inhalations, normal exhalations, but just draw your attention into the breath. Just release your knees, bring your hands into Namaste. Maintain the focus on the breath. Press the palms firmly together. Press the fingertips firmly together, the fingers together. Lengthening from the armpits into the elbows. And then with an exhalation, allow your eyes to gently close. Gently draw your chin down to meet your chest. And just spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone or somewhere. Something, someone, somewhere that brings you positive energy. A feeling of warmth and abundance around the heart area. Hold on to that feeling of abundance in the heart area, and then release the backs of your hands down toward your knees and raise your head. Allow your eyes to gently open. Hold onto your knees. Lift up into the chest, really elevating the spine up towards the ceiling. Take a deep inhalation and then turn to the right side, drawing the abdomen across, the ribs across, the shoulders across. And then come back to the center. Hold onto your knees, lift up into the chest, take a deep inhalation, and then turn to the left, drawing your abdomen across, your ribs across, the shoulders across. And then come back to the center. Just come off your lift and then sit yourself on your heels. Just let the legs, just feel the benefit of sitting back on the heels for a moment. So tired legs especially benefit from this nice just kind of sandwiching of the legs. And then activate the shins so that the thighs also activate. Push the shin bones into the shin skin so the thighs become active, and then lift up into the chest, and then entirely hinging from the hips, come forwards into Adho Mukha Vyasana. So pushing the hands into the floor, wriggling into the hips, hinging at the hips, hinging at the front rim of the pelvis, drawing that front rim of the pelvis into the tops of the thighs. But try and maintain the connection between the seat bones and the heels at the same time. Just breathing evenly and deeply. Breathing into both lungs evenly. Breathing out of both lungs evenly. And then come up onto your knees, turn your toes under, and then with bent knees come up into dog down. So pivot in the pelvis, so the front rim of the pelvis draws into the fronts of the thighs, so the tailbone and the seat bones lift up, and then just work to straighten your legs. Turning the fronts of the thighs inwards, hitting the fronts of the thighs through to the backs of the thighs. Just breathing evenly and deeply, just feeling where there are areas of resistance. And breathing into those areas. Step your feet forwards and up into a standing position, and then use blocks for your hands to come into half uttanasana if you're protecting your back, because you've got a bad back. Otherwise, we're going to go into full uttanasana, so the outside edge of the feet are in line with the edge of the mat. Really spread your toes, tighten your kneecaps, lift up into the chest, and then raise up into the chest. Hook the thumbs into the crease of the elbow, of the opposite elbow, wrap your fingers around the elbows, and then again, really working from the hips, keeping the back straight, like the door on a hinge. So keep the back straight like the door, and hinge from the hips, drawing that front rim of the pelvis into the legs. Just hang down. Do half uttanasana with your hands on blocks or on a table if you're protecting your back. Otherwise, just let your back stretch out into uttanasana. So you got to keep the legs really firmly activated, lifting from the shins, lifting the shins out of the ankle socket, hitting the shins back so that your weight is in your heels. Stretch into your toes, spread the toes, lift the kneecaps away from the shins, lift your thighs up and away from your kneecaps, up into the hip socket. Okay, and then release your hands down to the floor. Bring your hands into your hips and then come up into standing position. Just come into Tadasana. So the inner edge of your feet are together. Spread your toes. Hit your shins back so that your weight is in your heels. Tighten the kneecaps and turn the fronts of the thighs inwards. Turn the fronts of the shins inwards. Push the inner knees away from each other and lift the inner knees up towards the groin. Lift that front rim of the pelvis up towards the abdomen and then lengthen down into the arms. Breathing evenly. Just find your balance, but find your balance by being conscious of your feet, how they connect to the floor. Take deep inhalations, deep exhalations. Filling both lungs evenly. Bring your arms out nice and wide in towards the chest, and then step or jump your feet apart. Turn your right toes in, so your left toes in, your right leg and foot all the way out, and then just face the front. Turn this leg outwards, but then notice that when you turn this leg, then we turn that leg so we've got so we can come into alignment, so that we can kind of draw this front leg buttock bone in, but it makes the hips kind of turn, doesn't it? So turn this leg inwards, so from the inner thigh to the outer thigh, and then just feel where that left pelvic bone is and just try and turn that outwards, kind of brush it outwards. Feel that the hips are level, stretch out into the arms, and then reach down and find the shin. Keep turning that front leg. Keep the back leg really firmly active. And turn the chest up to face the ceiling and look up if you can, or look forwards, or look down. It's useful to look down so that you can see if your head is directly over your foot. And if it's not, you can lift the front chest a little more. You can turn that front leg a little more. You can squeeze that front leg buttock bone in a little more. And then you turn the chest up to face the ceiling. And then look up. Be soft in the jaw. Breathe evenly into both lungs. Just spending a little time in the pose, helping it clear out our sinuses. Reach up with the top hand, come back to the center, and then swap the feet around. Turn the right toes in and the left leg and foot all the way out. And then activate this front leg. Turn this front leg from the inside out. Activate this inner pelvic bone on the right side so that your hips are facing the front. And then reach over and find the shin. So look down at the foot. Make sure that your head is in line with the foot. Squeeze the front leg buttock bone forwards. Really activating that back leg. So from here, we're going to go back into dog down. So if you need to come out of this pose in the kind of traditional way, kind of reaching up with this top hand and coming out of the pose, and then just bringing the feet together and then coming down onto your front and then coming up into dog down, then do. Otherwise, just reach down. You might have to bend that left leg. You will need to bend that left leg. Bring the right hand on the big toe side of the left foot. Bring the left hand on the other side. Turn that back leg and then just step yourself back into dog down. Just feel the lightness of the pose in comparison to the first one. Just spend a little time just observing, is there evenness in your extensions? Or does one side of the body feel more engaged than the other? Just see if you can even that out. So trikonasana for clearing out the sinuses. And then come down onto your knees and then sit back on your heels. So we're going to work towards a headstand, but we're not going to go straight up into a headstand because it's really important to get the kind of dog downness of the headstand kind of right before you kind of move any further in. So let me show you. So we're going to go into dog down again. And again, I want you to really be conscious of the way that we can either do the cat pose, where the back rounds and everything kind of lands on the hands, or the cow pose where you're drawing that front rim of the pelvis into the tops of the thighs and then lifting the seat bones up. So that's what I want you to really consider to start off with, that cat and cow tilting of the pelvis. So come back into dog down, step back, and then come up into dog down. Now it's not good particularly to kind of force the cat pose in this, but the cat pose is really where the tailbone is kind of tucking inwards. Often when people bring their heels all the way down to the floor, so see if you can do that, then you lose that tilt of the pelvis and you start to really, the pose starts to feel quite heavy. So come right up onto the tiptoes and then tilt the pelvis so the front rim of the pelvis draws into the fronts of the thighs. And then hit the thighs away from the arms. So really working on that cow pelvis position. Okay, and then just come down onto your knees and sit back on your heels. So we're going to do dog down, but on our elbows, because this is really a good kind of starting point for dog down. Sorry, I thought the cat was there. So you're going to have your hands flat on the floor with your elbows flat on the floor. So I'll just show you, and then you're going to come up onto your elbows. So you can also go wide and just grip the sides of the mat, but that's a little bit wide. But you can do that if you feel a bit uneven, and then come up into dog down. But again, it will feel like more like the cat than the cow. So I want you to then really work to press the hands into the floor, press the forearms into the floor, and to work to draw the front rim of the pelvis into the tops of the thighs. So this is more like the starting position for a headstand, isn't it? So just come down onto your elbows, have your hands just shoulder width apart. Your elbows shoulder width apart. And then just come up into the dog down action. Now don't just put all of your weight into your elbows. Lengthen into the arms, into the palms. And then be right up on the tiptoes, and then see if you can tilt that pelvis. It's not as easy, but it's doable. So just see if you can get that pelvic tilt. Just breathe in nice and evenly. So your head is away from the floor, but see if you can get the forearms to press into the floor, press the palms into the floor, and then really tilt that pelvis up. See if you can tilt the pelvis a bit more, Andrew. Cat, see if you can tilt that pelvis. That's it. Okay, and then just gently bring yourself down. So this is just the preparation stage, really, of headstand. If you know that you can do a full headstand, then you can go into a headstand. If you use the wall, then of course go to the wall to do that. Otherwise, we're just going to continue to work on the preparation stage. So it's useful, even if you do go up into a headstand and you're kind of quite confident to go upside down, it's useful to just spend a little time in this preparation stage as well. But if you want to go all the way up, then that's fine as well. So the next stage is where, again, we bring our arms onto the floor and our elbows need to be in line with our shoulders. So that's really, really important because it's the foundation of the pose. Just bring your elbows really wide apart, and then you kind of notice that you kind of sink down into the floor immediately. So this elbow directly underneath the shoulder for stability. And then push the elbows into the floor and then lengthen the arms away from each other. So you can do this while I talk to you, or you can just watch. Push the elbows into the floor and then lengthen into the little finger side, palms facing each other, and then bring the fingers together so that they interlock. And then pushing the elbows into the floor, lengthening into the little finger side of the hand. Bring the hand down. Try and keep the outside wrist down on the floor. Have the upper facing wrist directly above the lower facing wrist so they don't roll out. And then get your thumbs and then just draw your thumbs towards your knuckles. So there should be a firmness here. It's very similar to the version of dog down we just did when we were on our elbows. So just feel that you've got that real firmness, the elbows underneath your shoulders. And then you're going to press the outer arms into the outer forearms into the floor, as well as the wrists, and then come up. So your head is free of the floor. Come up into dog down again. And then see if you can work that tilt of the pelvis, that tilt of the pelvis, just lifting up, pushing the elbows up, keeping the head free of the mat. So do a good dog down with your legs. Come down. Breathe evenly through the nose, in through the nose and out through the nose. Listening to the breath. Okay, and then just gently come down. So listen to the breath when you're there. So this preparation stage is a useful part of the process, because we're gonna just do that one more time, and this time again all with the head kind of hovering away from the floor. So we're going to do that one more time, really tilting that pelvis, but this time we're going to see if we can walk our toes in again with the head free of the floor. But we don't want this, because you'll never ever kick up with straight legs, with bent knees, sorry. So try and keep the legs really, really straight. So just one more time, but this time I want you to see if you can walk your feet in a little bit. So again, your head is free of the floor. It's just all of the weight of your upper body is in your arms rather than in your head. There's no weight on your head. So elbows as wide apart as your shoulders, no wider. Push the elbows into the floor, push the outer arms into the floor, push the elbows into the floor, and then lengthen the armpits away from the elbows. Really straighten the legs, tilt that pelvis, and then walk the legs in. But try not to bring your head down. So it's not quite, so Andrew, you're kind of letting your back round outwards. So try and push you're letting your back do this. So your back is rounding as you come up, like that. Try and keep the back straight, so you keep the shoulder blades moving in, and then even when you come forward, try and work those shoulder blades in, because if your back rounds when you go up, then if you try and kick up, you'll instantly fall over. So try and draw those shoulder blades in towards the front chest. That's better. Lengthen your shoulders away from your ears. Really lift your shoulders away from your ears, Andrew. Okay, and then come down. Okay, so this time we're going to put our head on the floor. But when you put your head on the floor for a headstand, it shouldn't feel heavy. There should be very little weight on your head. Now at this stage, you might want to go to the wall, because the wall will kind of give you some more support. It will just stop you from kind of over rounding your back. So if this is my little radiator here, was the wall. So you bring your knuckles right up to the wall, and then you place your head, the top of your head, right onto the floor with the base of the skull pressing into the heels of the hands. And then we're just going to do that first stage. But when you're walking into the wall, you'll feel the wall there for your back. And so it just gives you, so if you can walk your back into the wall, but if you walk your shoulders into the wall first, then you've got to draw the shoulders in. So it's this action of drawing your shoulders away from your ears. So try this up against the wall if you can, and just see if you can walk your back into the wall. But I don't want you to kick up, but just walk your back into the wall. If you haven't got a spare wall, then just do it in the middle of the room. But just really try and consciously draw your shoulders in. So let's just do that together. So knuckles right up against the wall, elbows in line with your shoulders, and then guide the top of your head onto the floor, pushing your head into your hands, keeping the cup of the hands open. And then come up onto the tiptoes, tilt that pelvis, and then keep the shoulders away from your ears, and then walk your back in towards the wall. And by the time this should be it's all in your shoulders, not in your head. It should be very little weight on your head. If you want to come down, you can do supta baddha konasana if you want, Christine, if you've had enough of going upside down. So Andrew, you're kind of pushing. So this is why you need the wall, because you're kind of going, okay, come down, because you're going to roll over in a second. No, yeah, don't try and kick up. Draw your chin down towards the floor a bit more. Draw your shoulders in towards your spine. Okay, so it's good to try it up against the wall, Andrew, because you're kind of really rounding your back a little, and the wall would help you to just kind of keep that levelness. But it's all about drawing your shoulder. It's difficult when you're upside down because gravity is kind of pulling you in the wrong direction, but it's all about keeping your shoulders down, away from your ears. Okay, just everyone come down from whichever stage of headstand you are at, and just come down onto the floor and go back up into dog down. So dog down works as an inversion as well as a standing pose. Just let your head hang down. So inversions are really good for the immune system. You should avoid them if there are eye or ear infections, or if you're on a period. Okay, and then when you're ready, just come down onto your knees. And then come back down onto your back into supta baddha konasana. Down onto your back. Hold on to the feet. Keep the feet close to the seat bones, and then just let go of the feet. And then just rest down into the floor in supta baddha konasana. So just listen to the sound of the breath. Breathing evenly into both lungs, evenly out of both lungs. Just letting the body release into the floor, pushing the heels consciously together. Just tilting the front rim of the pelvis up towards the abdomen, just to flatten the lumbar. Okay, and then just gently draw your knees together. Have your knees together and your feet apart for a moment, just giving yourself a little release in the hips. And then draw your knees in towards your chest. Just have a little rock from top to bottom, from side to side, just a gentle massage on the spine. And then just rock yourself up into a seated position. And then just sit directly on the floor if you can. If you need to sit on a lift for seated forward bends, then sit on a folded blanket or on some blocks. And then stretch your legs away. Have a belt where you can reach it. So just roll over and move the buttock flesh out to the side. And then tilt the pelvis so that the front rim of the pelvis is lifted up towards the chest and forwards towards the tops of the thighs. You can have your feet slightly apart to start off with. Let me just turn around so I'm facing you rather than away. So just work to tilt the pelvis so that your chest can lift. Have the big toes together, or you can have them slightly apart. Just breathing evenly, deeply, and then keep the right leg where it is. Get hold of the back of the left knee, and then we're going to try not to disturb your seat bones as you do this. Bring that knee out to the side like you're going to do the tree pose. So at this stage, if you kind of roll onto the back edge of the seat bones, sit on a blanket. If you can keep that front rim of the pelvis tilting forwards, then do. If this knee is floating in the air, then give it some support underneath the head of the knee. If the outside of the calf is in contact with the floor, then you should be fine. And then get your belt and then throw the belt around the foot. So if you've got a bad back, then you want to stay at this stage, but just work to push the foot into the belt and to elevate the chest upwards, tilting the pelvis, the front rim of the pelvis forwards into that front leg, drawing the front rim of the pelvis into the top of the thigh. So you use the pressure on the foot, using the belt so you can really lift up into the chest. Just breathing evenly and deeply listening to the sound of the breath. Turning the abdomen to face the straight leg side. So if you know that you don't have a problem with your back and that you can reach your foot, then release the belt and then raise your arms up, turning the abdomen from the left to the right. And then again, it's from the pelvis, not from the back. So remember that door hinge. So come forwards and then come forward by hinging at the pelvis. Keep the head lifted, keep the chest lifted. Come forwards in a straight line. Keep reaching beyond the foot, even if you can reach it. And then take hold of the foot. And then lift up into the chest, drawing that front rim of the pelvis deeply into the front thigh. Lifting up into the chest. Continuing with that pelvic tilt. Maybe you can bend your elbows out to the side. Reach around the foot. Keeping that pelvic tilt. Resisting bringing your head down initially, and then rest the head down if you can reach. But there's no point in reaching down if your head is kind of floating in the air. You're just going to push your shoulder blades out. So keep the shoulder blades drawing inwards as much as you can. Keep that that straight leg rotating inwards in Tadasana from the little toe side to the big toe side. Keep the abdomen rotating from the left to the right. So Janu Sirsasana. So it's a good liver and kidney massage, but also a really nice quietening pose. So just working at whichever level is right for you, just keeping the chest lifted, whichever version you're doing. Okay, and then just gently come back to the center. Just feel that quietness that comes over the brain as you come out of a forward bend, and then bring that left knee in and then straighten the left knee. Just reset on the floor. And then just reset in Dandasana. Try not to disturb the seat bones as you bring the right leg out to the side. And then again, you either go directly to the belt, or if you're not using the belt, just have your hands at the sides of the hips, pressing into the floor, tilting the pelvis, lifting up into the chest. So you can suddenly feel what the benefit of having the belt is, can't you? Because it becomes more challenging to lift the chest when we're not using the belt. So use the belt if you need it. Turn this leg inwards, and then raise your arms if you're not using the belt, and then again hinging entirely at the hips. Reach forwards, reach beyond the foot, and then take hold of the foot. So that reaching beyond the foot just encourages you to keep lifting in the front chest. Turning this front leg from the outside in, keeping that front leg really firm, pressing the kneecap firmly into the floor. Feeling the tilt of the pelvis, and let that tilt of the pelvis be the thing that makes you come forwards. If you can reach around the foot, then do. Just stay at whichever level is right for your back. Okay, and then just come back to the center. Just stretch both legs out in front, and then come into cross legs, just holding onto your knees, lifting up into the chest. Just breathing evenly into both lungs, evenly out of both lungs. Take a deep inhalation, and then turn to the right side. Drawing your abdomen across your ribs and your shoulders, but keeping the neck soft. And then come back to the center, lift up into the chest, drive the spine upwards, take a deep inhalation in through the nose. And then turn to the right side, to the left side, sorry. And then gently come back to the center. Good. So we're going to do the legs, viparita karanhi, but with the legs up the wall, just to give you some time in an inversion without going all the way up into a shoulder stand. So it's useful to have a bolster. If you haven't got a bolster, you can just use some blocks. So I'm using this here as my wall. So I've got a bolster, and you want the bolster quite close to the wall, and then you come down onto your side, and then just have one hip on the bolster, and then just roll over. And so the bolster is underneath your lower back. And then just stretch your legs out. You can either keep your hands on your lower ribs, come right up onto the tops of the shoulders, have your hands on your lower ribs, or you can even just let your arms just rest over your head, like this. So just get your bolster close to the wall, and then come down onto the floor. Have one hip, have the floor hip on the floor, and then just roll yourself up. And then you might need to just push your feet into the wall a little, just adjust the position of the bolster, come right up onto the tops of the shoulders, and then just rest your arms either on the ribs or on just resting your arms on the floor over your head. So we're going to stay up for 5 minutes, and that will give the body a good inversion that will help to kind of kickstart the immune system. So if you don't have a wall handy, then like I've got here, just something just to rest your legs on. Because staying, or you can just stay in the middle of the room, but it's a little bit more challenging if your legs are in the middle of the room. But that's fine, you can do that as well. So if you've got glasses on, it's nice to take them off when you're in inversion. So you don't have to, when your legs are against the wall, you don't have to work them particularly hard. You can lengthen into the heels, you can pull the toes down towards the kneecaps, but you could also just let the legs just soften, just rest into the wall. Of course, if you're in the middle of the room, you will need to really extend into the heels, lengthen the legs up towards the ceiling, and just to continue to work to use, just to kind of keep the legs up in the air. If you're in the middle of the room and you can use a bolster, then that will help. So having the bolster underneath the hips. Just continue to breathe evenly into both lungs, filling the lungs from the bottom to the top, as though you're doing that first stage of Ujjayi Pranayama. Listen to the sound of the breath with your inner ear. Okay, just bend your knees and then just roll over onto your side. Just bring yourself back up into the seated position. Just be cross legs for a moment, holding onto your knees. Close your eyes, just feel your energy in the upper body, around the head, around the shoulders, around the face. And then stick with the bolster. Have the bolster either underneath your knees, or you can put it on top of your knees if you want. So if your legs feel tired, put it on top of your legs. Otherwise, just have it underneath your knees. Have a blanket for underneath your head, and then just guide yourself down along the floor with the blanket underneath your head. If you can cover your eyes just for a couple of moments, then do. And then just allow yourself to release down into the floor. So let go of the muscles of the arms and of the legs. Unhook the muscles of the arms and the legs, so that the physical body feels heavy. And out of that heaviness comes a rising lightness, rising up to the top of the skin. Be conscious of that feeling of positive energy rising to the top of the skin. And then use the in-breath and the out-breath to distribute that evenly throughout the body. Down into the tips of the toes, the tips of the fingers, the top of the head. Just basking in that feeling of positive energy. And then when you're ready, just gently wriggle your toes, wriggle your fingers. Just remove the covering from your eyes if you were using it. And then draw your knees into your chest. Just have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just a gentle massage on the spine. And then very gently roll over onto your right side. Stretch out with the top leg, come back up into a seated position. And then just come back into cross legs with your hands in the masti, just a final spinal lift. Drawing your breath in through your nose and down into the abdomen. Be conscious of the energy that you have released through your practice this morning, that good, positive, healthy flow of clean energy that the extensions and the forward bends and the twists and the inversions bring to the body and to the mind. And then draw your chin down to meet your chest. Just spend a moment to seek to acknowledge that positive energy you've created inside. And then radiate some of that positive energy out into the world. And then release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards. And then as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Thank you. So hopefully you feel as though you have really lifted your energy from the inside and giving yourself some good energy to put into your day. Also, hopefully, if you're on the way to a cold or something like that, it should ease off a little. Thank you very much for joining me.